A Dark Peace by Dana Lee. Chapter 34. It was twilight, and Daniel watched for his house. It's not there. Do not worry, my friend. We will go in for a look. But Daniel knew it wasn't. He had fished in a little boat as a boy here 1,000 times. That if should have seen the rooftop glinting in the dappled, darkening sky, they could have seen the columns and the front porch. Do not go any further. My heart cannot bear it. She is gone. What do you mean, darling? She cradled him in her arms, and he felt like a fallen hero there. I cannot see anything but a blackness, she was going to say, and stopped, for there was a deliberate black hole charred there, amongst the magnolia and cypress, with their gray hair. No, you cannot see anything because she's not there. The Yankees burned her down. I knew it, too. I knew it in my dreams, and felt it in my heart. Pardon me, Danny, but I think it better we don't go ashore. There might be Yankees still camped amongst the outhouses. Better we go into Nolans and find your family. Better we head in after dark. And we are hours from there still. Your family owns property in the Vieux Carré, no? Yes, a townhouse on Toulouse, as well as a Creole cottage in Lafayette, of course. That's where they are. Thank you. Come down below, my love. The skeeters will be biting. They docked in New Orleans several hours later, and Lee had never heard such sounds, music, nor had she ever seen as many lights at this hour of night. She could see the spires of St. Louis Cathedral in the distance, and she found it heavenly, comforting, all of it, some dark peace amongst the noise. And the smell of it, it smelled dank yet warm both at the same time. She could liken it to nothing but the river and the starry sky. What she didn't know, could not remember, was that it was the smell of the earth sodden with brine, the smell of the womb and her mother. So she was here, home. There were several Yankees who met with Jean up on deck as they waited below. "Oh, Danny, I'm nervous," she whispered. "Shh, it's all right now, sugar." He had been telling them about his Yankee cousin, who he has brought along with him, a lady, to meet her fiancé. I was afraid all of this would happen, you see. Only I didn't want to worry you, so I remained hopeful. We will spend the night in the townhouse. You'll like it. It's splendid. Daddy always kept it fully staffed. It's just down the street from the opera. My mother always stayed there from time to time. She loves the opera house. They sing in French there. The only dilemma now is if we should get there to find it occupied by Yankee guards. It is a big place with 3 stories. In which case it is only a half-hour's ride to the fine Creole cottage in Lafayette, which is charming as well. It will remind you of the train station in Sugarloaf. I'm sorry to have put you through this, Lee. Don't be ridiculous. Why, I love it already. John descended below the deck, and the men put Lee's trunk in a coach waiting along Iberville Street for them. Lee stared out the window of the coach at gas lanterns and houses, the colors she had never seen before. Even at night she was enthralled already. "Oh, I love you," she said, "and I love you." Chapter 35. The coach stopped at a corner when Daniel got out and led the horses to an alley with a long iron gate. It was locked. Lights burned from within the grand abode, which was gray-bricked with wrought-iron balconies and mauve shutters, hiding white-trimmed windows. He rang the bell at the double doors, also protected by the ironwork, as there were all of the windows on the first floor. It was a fortress, a keep. It seemed to Lee as if a secret tucked back on the corner, big as it was. It closed its eyes to the world like a sleeping mastiff. Lee watched as a wiry black woman with a white turban and apron came to the door. "Lottie, Lottie, Madame Louise, come, look who's come home." She waited anxiously from within as she watched 2 other diminutive women came to the door and tackled Danny. Jean brought her trunk to the door. Mama, Marie, Titi, there is someone I'd like you to meet. He rushed back to the coach with a smile as wide as the Mississippi. Thank you for everything, John. Won't you please come in? Come along, darling. He took her hand. It's all right. The little black woman, Titi, ran and unlocked the gate. John led the coach inside. Mama, Marie, Titi, I'd like to introduce you to my wife, Lee. I was hit by a Yankee shell, and Lee brought me back from the dead. It's my pleasure to meet you, Lee said nervously. Marie and Titi each took her hands and led her down the long hall. Louise locked the double doors behind them. Once again Lee was unaccustomed to such opulent living. The foyer was papered in gold and cream stripes, and a dozen portraits in oils lined the hall in intricate gilt frames. A chandelier sparkled in a myriad of colors like fairy lights along the walls. She also witnessed shadows along the corridor, sinister like grotesque dancers, and she felt dizzy with excitement and swayed till Daniel caught her up and delivered her to a fine settee in the parlor. The parlor didn't help matters much, however, as she thought it was the finest room she had ever seen, and sunk back into the deep golden cushion, caught up in a kind of reverie. My, Daniel, has she been drinking? No, Mama, I'm afraid it's been a very tiring day for us, is all. My poor darling, might I put her to bed, then come back down and get reacquainted? Of course. Titi, will you show her to the back third floor suite? Yes, madam. Come along, child. Oh, I'm all right, thank you. She was red with embarrassment. She had never felt this way, never worried about what anybody ever thought of her before. Yet now she worried that this funny little woman, who seemed to her like a marionette with impossible dark curls piled high on her head and white powdered face, did not like her. Besides the face and the hair, Louise seemed lost among countless silk and lace skirts, and her corset was laced so tight that Lee was certain the woman must be missing a couple of sets of ribs. Marie, on the other hand, seemed quite harmless enough with her soft, natural hair and big, sleepy eyes. She wore a plain white slip with soft panelettes. She was barefoot. If it wasn't for the scarlet lipstick smeared around her mouth, Marie could have passed for any number of Lee's old friends. Only she, like her mother, seemed impossibly thin. Where the mother seemed animate, the daughter, lounging half-dressed on the sofa in the presence of John, seemed oblivious. Mama's all right, darling. We have all morning to get acquainted over breakfast, and I'll show you all around after. John, will you help me with the trunk, please? Merci. Thank you. I am tired. I'm so happy to meet all of you. I'll see you in the morning. Titi scuttled up ahead, holding her nightdress as she showed them up and up 2 flights of never-ending stairs. There were portraits of dead people staring at her from every wall. Do you hear them? Who? The portraits. I used to think they called me when I was a boy. I haven't been in this house since I was 14. Shh, listen. What? Don't you hear what they're saying? She teased him with a whisper. Yankee. Chapter 36. Lee could not believe the suite, with its stained glass door that opened to a wrought iron balcony overlooking the deep courtyard below. She thought she must have died somehow back home, only to awaken in a garden of southern delight. Damn the Yankees, she thought for a moment as she sunk into the most luxurious mattress. It must be made of swan feathers. She dreamed and fell into a deep sleep. She dreamed that there were rats hiding in the walls and roaches in the cupboards. Daniel led John back into the parlor. Pardon moi, madame, but I bear gifts to you for your hospitality and your son's happy return and sacrifice. He opened a wooden crate that lay on the floor as big as a casket. For you, madam. He handed her 4 bottles of white wine from Paris, a bag of coffee from Havana, and a box of English tea. Merci, sugar, won't you stay with us a while? We certainly have the room. Stay as long as you like. She popped a bottle of wine with the corkscrew and lay upon the marble-topped parlor table with curling line clawed feet and called, "Titi, bring us some ice and glasses, as we shall celebrate my son's return, my handsome, brave boy. Now, you said you'd gone and got yourself hurt. Is it so bad?" "I'm better, Mama. My arm still isn't much use, I'm afraid, but I'm working it along." "We've missed you, Danny," said Marie. "So much has happened since you went away. Now you are home. Amen, baby brother." "You look thin, both of you." Titi returned and served the wine. "Ah, wait," interrupted John. I'm not through with my gift to you. This is for you." Mademoiselle handed Marie a sumptuous blue velvet robe with golden embroidery and silk lining. "Merci, Jean. Sweet Jesus, but it's dreamy." "For you, my friend." He handed him a hard case. Inside lay a perfect German pistol. He tossed him a little black bag, which he caught clumsily with his left hand and pocketed. The old friends laughed. "I'm sorry, I forgot, and please pass these on to your wife from me as wedding gifts." 3 white boxes were wrapped and tied with gold ribbon. Louise drank the wine. "This is excellent, sugar. I'm dying to know what's in the boxes. For Lee, madam, you are so blessed to have 2 daughters now, and both of mine dead." He blessed himself. "That's what we really have to tell you, sugar. Sit down, honey, as this will hurt." She waved her little lace-gloved hand, and they were all seated. "I know about the house, Mama. I was there. That's how I figured I'd find you here." He hadn't found it odd that his father wasn't home, or rather was sleeping. From what he could remember, his father was seldom home. He often had business elsewhere. "Well, there's more to it than that, baby." She fingered the little cameo that hung around her neck, tied with a thin black ribbon. There was a mole above her lip that Daniel did not remember. Marie slipped back out of the robe and began fanning herself. "A lot more," she said. "Daddy is dead," Louise blurted out, as she did not want the words upon her lips for too long, the biting statement in finality. She started to cry. "Titi, my handkerchief." Daniel wished he had one to offer her, but he had given it to his wife. "Oh, Mama, what happened? They didn't hurt you, did they?" Who? Suddenly her eyes were dry. The very thought of them dried her to the core of her brittle being. She refused to shed another single tear over what they did. Desolate. She hated them, and the hatred for her was enough reason to live. Her hatred was her weapon, her vengeance against them. "The Yankees," he whispered, and knew just then he would lose the war. "Funny you should mention that. Mama, tell me about Daddy." I'll tell you some other time, all right?" "Jean, are you staying with us? Forgive me, darlings, but it's been a very tiring day for us all, and Mama's not feeling so well. I suppose the wine has gone to my head. Marie, will you walk Mama up to bed, please, sugar?" "I'll be up in a minute, Mama." "Forgive me too, my friends, but I really can't stay. I've left Elise long enough, and she's liable to stray to Baton Rouge." "So long, Jean. Come back and see us any old time," cooed Marie. She didn't bother to get up. Daniel walked him to the door. "Thank you for everything, my old friend. Good night." His sister now lay sleeping in the parlor, and he hadn't the strength to wake her. Chapter 37. Lee awoke the next morning and just lay there in bed looking about the room. She lay swathed in a gold velvet spread. The same fabric hung over 2 long windows and also draped the entrance to the bedroom. Golden damask paper covered the walls, and she almost remembered her nightmare from the long night since past, but then forgot it again as she rolled over and caught sight of the headboard of the bed. There cherubim cast in bronze frolicked and played amongst a garden of roses. Against the one wall stood a chest, 6 feet high and 3 feet wide. Figures inlaid with mother-of-pearl strolled across the front of the chest, each intricately carved in Asian dress. She got out of bed and stepped onto a Turkish rug entwined with little yellow birds caught up with green vines with curling tendrils. There were cherubs in stained glass on the door to the balcony, too. She could see now, dancing in the morning light, and a piano began to play from somewhere in the house. Within the glass were music notes, eighths and sixteenths, a treble clef, and more yellow roses. Along the other side of the room, a corner chair lurked with clawed feet, meeting at the bottom. A tapestry was worked into the back of the chair, a pastoral scene with lovers. It seemed very French to her country eye. There was mahogany vanity and a gold and cream striped slipper chair, too. Upon it weighed a pitcher and a wash bowl, fine china, German quality, hand-painted with yellow roses and garlands of gold braid. She pulled yesterday's white dress down to her camisole and pantalettes. She had only ever worn a corset twice, for her father's and brother's funerals. It seemed appropriate to her only at those times. Going into the other room from whence she had come, she found a little sitting room where her husband lay, hanging over the white satin settee, draped with a thin throw, fine, soft, golden silk with tiny butterflies. Not wanting to wake him, she just stared at him for a while, before finding her trunk and her combs and brushes. The floor of the sitting room was graced with a plush carpet striped with pink and gold. There was also a fine coffee table, and the white boxes with golden bows and ribbon lay tempting her there. "Oh, Danny," she kissed his head. "Morning, love. Good morning. I hope you slept well, like a dream." "Good. We did not. None of us stayed up long after. I'll ring Titi to send us some coffee up." "Oh, there is no bell here. I never spent time up here. It is lovely, isn't it?" "Oh, it is so beautiful, yes." "I'm glad it's to your liking. We aim to please. I'm afraid I have some more really bad news for us as well. My father is dead, and what is worse is Mama's too upset still to even speak of it." "Oh, darling, no." "Yes, I do believe the Yankees had much to do with it. He loved that house and would have found it very appropriate to die there defending it to the end." "I'm so sorry. Well, here, my love, wedding gifts to you from Jean. Do open them." She opened the longer, thinner one first and found a beautiful china-head doll with a long, slender neck, pink luster face with dark almond-shaped eyes and a little pursed mouth. Her hair was sculpted dark, pulled back into ringlets of curls. Her china arms and hands were delicate, as were her fine legs and slippers. She wore a powder blue silk gown with gold embroidery, white satin ribbons, and lace. Beneath it her slip was a white silk with lace trim and matching pantalettes. She even wore tiny aquamarine earrings. "Oh, Danny, isn't she just beautiful? Won't Bess be jealous? Doesn't she have the most peaceful expression?" Her other dolls still lay waiting, wrapped in a nightgown, in the trunk. "Open the others. This is too much excitement for one day already. It only gets better." It seemed to be so. The other boxes held frocks in silk and chiffon, hidden deep beneath white tissue. "Oh, my stars, this is too much." She held them up in front of herself for size and saw that they'd fit. One was lilac and the other rose. "Come, my lady, let's get washed and go down for breakfast. There's sure to be coffee, grits, and why, we may even have mimosa afterward in the courtyard, if you're good. Thanks to Jean. Will you grace me with a shave?" Of course. She so loved to shave him. Chapter 38. It was still early by New Orleans time by the time they washed, dressed, and went down to the kitchen. Lee wore the long lilac dress with the princess cut and layered chiffon backing. She thought she'd never looked so good, and her husband was much impressed. The heat was unbelievable, and she dabbed at her neck and exposed chest with a handkerchief. This was her first dress she wore that displayed her pale white chest. It was tight across the front and had intricate, soft powder blue lace. There were some little blue topaz set directly between her bosom that drew him in, and he kissed her just there. His timing, as always, was unfortunate, as just then his mother walked in and back out of the room abruptly. He ran after her. "Oh, Mamma, I'm sorry. Come back. It's just my wife looked so fetching in her new frock that I was quite overtaken with the moment. Forgive me, Mamma." He led her back to the kitchen and its sunny atmosphere. Just then it seemed darker, and Lee could see the windows steam up as the rain pelted the house. Daniel held his mother's hand and patted it. She wore a white mob cap this morning, and Lee hoped the atrocity that she wore on her head last night, graced with gem insects and silk flowers, was in fact a wig. Her face, however, was still powdered white like a mask, and her eyes looked scary, scrawled round with a dark pencil. Lee thought her tight scarlet mouth ugly. A turkey vulture came to her mind, and she tried to shoo it away and smiled apologetically to her mother-in-law for her son's behavior. "I do believe this girl has bewitched you, Danny." "Yes, Mamma, that's what I tell her." T.T. laid out some biscuits, grits, and coffee. "Might we have mimosa in the courtyard after?" he asked, and T.T. nodded her head, so happy that the little master was home. "T.T. is all we have left. The others ran off when the Yankees came. I didn't have the heart to leave the poor little thing defenseless. Who would take care of her? What would she do?" "Tell me about Daddy, Mamma. Did the Yankees do it?" She nodded her head. "They sure enough did. I'd like to rip out their hearts till hell won't have them again." "I figured as much." Lee started uncomfortable with the conversation. "Where is our sister? I thought I heard her playing." "She sleeps so late. She's like living with the dead these days. She doesn't sleep well at night. She has nightmares." Lee picked up some biscuits and drank her coffee. That was strong. "Come out to the courtyard. Come with us, Mamma. Tell me, did you get my letters?" "At first, well, after we moved here, you might have forwarded the address. Really, well, who'd think of it? That's why we're so happy to have you home now. We need you, darling. True, we are much more fortunate than most, but your daddy's insistence in gold, God bless him, but we do miss a man around. And the Yankees, well, with their blockade and Mr. Benjamin Butler, we're scarce to see a cup of coffee or bowl of sugar. We're afraid to sleep at night for fear of dirty Yankees burning down the house around us." Lee ignored her, mesmerized with the lush beauty and charm of the courtyard garden. They sat at a black iron table with little chairs, all done in roses. There was an old silver coffee pot on the table, filled with the biggest white roses that she had ever seen. She paid no attention to Louise, who talked as if she wasn't there anyways. She didn't even care. She knew well enough that this woman would never accept her. She was well aware of that before they ever met. She saw how it was and how it would be. Taking her mimosa along with her, she got up and wandered around the courtyard, which seemed a secret world to her, secluded, shady. This little woman could not break the peace of its spell. There was a kidney-shaped pond in the middle of the bricked floor, surrounded in flagstones. Lily pads floated on the surface along with lotus. Palms and ferns grew from iron planters, and a marble goddess, nearly as tall as Lee, lingered low in the far corner, surrounded by fern and impatiens, eluding the sun. The drink had made her giddy, like a girl again, and he came close behind her. "Who is that?" "Some Greek goddess of youth. Her name escapes me." "Mamma, what's her name?" He pointed at the statue with her smooth round shoulders and vacant eyes. "How should I know? The only things belonging to me in this house are in my rooms. This was your father's house. Everything in it belonged to him." "The Greek goddess of youth. What was her name?" "Lord, it's hot already." "Why, you all will simply die in this heat. Do all of us make for Grand Isle, Mamma? We could swim and just lay around on the rocks all day like otter." Marie had awoken. She wore a wide-brimmed white sun hat with a white linen scarf. There were little black holes in the scarf, and Lee wondered if the Yankees had done that too. "How many times do I have to remind you, child, we do not air out our dirty linens to the public?" Lee wondered if she was talking about her actual attire, for she had not changed from her slip from the night before. "This is not public, Mamma. This is family, and besides, there's nobody around to hear." Louise became tight-jawed and fanned herself with an Asian fan. She sipped her mimosa. Nobody but Yankees. "Tee-tee." Marie picked up a little iron bell and shook it. "Get me a drink. I'm going to show Lee around the rest of the house now." He turned to leave. "Stay out of our rooms. Why, Tee-tee is so lazy that we ought to die of embarrassment, you understand. Surely, darling, you know how private your mamma is." "Yes, Mamma." He touched Lee's back and led her through the kitchen and into the dining room with the stained glass lotus chandelier, long tablecloth in gold and lace, clothed in gold and lace, with dark, high-backed chairs, matching hutch and dry sink. "Oh, here is the dumbwaiter off of the pantry. You can have things sent up to you." "Me?" "Why, yes. See, here in the South, darling, it is proper for a lady such as yourself to have her own set of rooms. Poor Tee-tee, we shall see to it. She won't be able to keep up with all of you." "I should take care of myself, thank you. Won't you take me out? Might we walk the streets?" "Oh, Danny boy, there you are. Might your mamma steal you away for a moment alone, my sweet?" "Excuse me, sugar. Surely you don't plan on showing off your Yankee up and down the Vieux Carré. It isn't Mardi Gras, you know. Mamma, she's my wife. With your daddy not yet cold in his grave? What would he say? What will people think? Frankly, Mamma, I'm beyond all that. I wouldn't have married her had I not loved her. You could have had anybody, and you bring home a scallywag." "I won't have you talking that way about her, Mamma. Don't get uppity with me. Besides, like I told you, I'd be dead if it wasn't for her. And your family could retain some honor. You'd be better off dead than with a Yankee." "Enough. Daddy would have loved her. I'm sure of it. Keep your voice down. You seem to be forgetting, Mamma, that by law of my father's property passes to me. You're in my house, Mamma, but if you don't want us here, then we'll move to the cottage." "I see. So you've taken on Yankee tendencies, to turn on your own Mamma, who brought you into this world. Well, you all just move there, to Lafayette. Why don't you, then?" "I've allowed the poor widow de Galvez from Indigo Manor to stay there with her two beautiful daughters, Moselle and Almie." "How's your Yankee going to like that?" "Or would you toss a poor widow out on the street? Moselle would have just leapt at the chance to marry you. You're all she talked about since this war began, and you never even answered her letters. The filthy Yankees burned down her beautiful home and shot her father in the back. Luckily, two of the girls were married, and two went to stay with their aunt in Alexandria. I could not just turn the other three respectable ladies out on the street with the Yankees, could I? Daniel had Mlle. de Galvez, and he did not want her. Obviously, moving to Lafayette was no longer an option. You will learn to treat my wife with due respect, Mama, or you can move in with the ladies." "Not me." Marie came from behind them from the courtyard. "I'm staying with Danny for a while. And that's another thing. Now that we are out of Yankee earshot." Marie looked scared and uncomfortable for a moment, and her already porcelain complexion blanched. Her usual peaceful countenance took on a mask of horror. Just then Lee too came in, running out of paintings of birds in the bayou in the dining room. She caught the look on Marie's face. She knew it well. She saw the same unbridled expression on the faces of nearly everybody since the battle. She wondered if she had tried it on even once or twice, and was sure she had. "Excuse me, I'm sorry. Take me for a walk now, darling, please." "Of course, my love. It is not safe. And you, without any papers of discharge from the army. They'll take you prisoner and hang you, they will. They'll blindfold you and shoot you down, or else the Confederacy will deem you a deserter." Louise was so sure of herself, and forced her terror down to the pit of herself, the black pit, writhing with vipers, waiting to strike. "Oh, I hadn't realized that. I am stupid. Of course, my darling. She's right, then. Please, Danny, write to the army." "Excuse me, madam, but Danny cannot write, much less fire a gun. I'm sorry, darling, but the truth must be told. If you'd like, I will write the letter for you. The truth be told, a Yankee crippled my poor boy's arm." "Mamma." Daniel was not the type of man to stand amongst the hens. Let me take you upstairs, Lee, and finish the tour of the house.